So the clinical presentation, which is taken from the study from China, common symptoms which we see, which was seen was fever. So fever was not present at for all the patients on admission, but only 50% of patients had fever. Cough, shortness of breath was around 20 to 40% of the patients. The triad of fever, cough, and shortness of breath was present in only 15% of the patients. So the less common symptoms are URI symptoms and GI symptoms like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. So the disease categorization we can see is 70 to 80% of these patients had mild COVID, and only 15% required ICU admission, and 15 to 25% had severe COVID. So the caveat here is this is only from the Chinese studies and only among the patients who were hospitalized. So the labs which were seen was leukopenia in around 17 to 54% of patients, and lymphopenia in 33 to 85% of patients. So the platelets were normal to slightly decreased, and AST and ALT were increased. The biomarkers, most of the biomarkers were increased. So here, most of the patient at baseline, they had normal procalcitonin, but during the course of the disease, the procalcitonin was elevated in more than 0.5% of the patients, and this indicated a much more severe disease. So what about the co-infections, viral and bacterial co-infections? So this article was published in by two articles, one published in Lancet and JAMA, which shows that at present, whatever the data we have, it shows the co-infection rate is around 0 to 6%, and multiple cases of co-infection with other respiratory viruses are also present, like influenza. What we have to note is the detection of an alternative viral infection makes COVID-19 less likely, but does not rule the disease. And bacterial co-infection likely increases with severity of illness. So if a patient is having bacterial infection, we cannot rule out COVID. It just shows that probably the patient has a much more severe illness. So this is again the clinical course of the disease. This is taken from 191 hospitalized patients from Wuhan, out of which 137 survived and 54 died eventually. So the symptoms which we see in the orange and blue bar color, the symptoms to begin with were fever and cough, and dyspnea started on day 4 in these patients. And the second week, from the week that dyspnea started, patient had needed ICU admission. So here also, if we see among the non-survivors, these patients had invasive ventilation around day 15. That is by the time, like around the second week of when they had breathlessness. And day 12, they developed ARDS, and other organs were involved. So this is a report on case fatality rates. So here if we see, this is the red ones are the case fatality rates in China. The blue one is from Italy. So here if we see, the case fatality increases with increasing age. So one of the main here we can see after the age of 50 and 80 plus patients, the case fatality is the most. So here other risk factors like men more than women was only seen from the Chinese studies, not from other places. So the other risk factors for complications which develop during the COVID disease are older age, above 65 years, CVS disease, chronic lung disease, hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. Apart from this, the COVID diseases which lead to much more severe clinical manifestations are end-stage kidney disease, immunosuppression, cancer and HIV infection, prolonged use of glucocorticoids, other immunomodulatory drugs, liver disease, and history of smoking. But there is just one standalone study from Italy, I think, which says that smoking is protective. But we don't know the. Ma'am, you have some question? So now moving on to specific systems. So a bit of update in cardiac manifestations. So this was published in JAMA Cardiology in March 2020. So the most common clinical syndromes which is seen is myocarditis, myopericarditis, and tamponade. And cardiomyopathy, this was seen from the US. These two ICU studies were done from Seattle, actually, Evergreen ICU study and Seattle ICU study. So in Evergreen ICU study, we see that 7 out of 21 patients who were admitted in ICU had clinical syndromes of cardiology. And other common manifest syndromes is arrhythmias, which is seen in 6 to 17%. So the cardiac injury, which leads to adverse outcomes, there are two large studies from China, both like one is consisting of 187 and 416 patients. So in these patients, cardiac injury was seen in 20 to 28%, and these patients had predisposed CADs also. And they had, it has been associated with increased risk of complications like ARDS, the need for intubation, AKIs, and arrhythmias. So these patients, the ECG changes, even without any specific ECG changes, all these patients had increased troponin levels and increased D-dimer, and they had this cardiac manifestation is associated with increased risk of death. So the cardiac injury may be due to direct infection and due to systemic inflammation or increased demand. So in other viral infection also we can see cardiac injury. For example, in influenza also it is seen, and there the cause is by direct infection. So a bit about ACE inhibitor and ARBS. So the ACE2 inhibitor receptor is the SARS-CoV-2 cell entry receptor. So there is lot of mixed opinion that whether we should stop the ACE inhibitor or continue the medication or change it. So according to multiple European and American societies, it is advocated that the patient already taking these medications should continue them. A bit of update from GI manifestations. So GI symptoms mostly are overall seen in 1 to 10% of cases. And there are two other case series, out of which 69 patients out of 452 patients reported higher rates of diarrhea. And in only some atypical cases, patients only had GI symptoms without respiratory symptoms. So they were seen in 3% and 10%. This is in two case series from China. So quite large study. So these symptoms are very uncommon, but can be there. So a bit of update from ENT manifestation. So this is from Italy. This is a cross-sectional study of 59 hospitalized COVID patients. So the 34% of patients had olfactory or taste disorder. Out of taste disorder, 10% had dysgeusia, and other 5% had olfactory disorder. So most of these patients were female and younger in age, and all these patients had persistent symptoms on day 15. Mechanism is direct inflammation versus direct infection versus inflammation is not clear. Other system is ocular manifestations. So this is published from JAMA Ophthalmology. This is again taken from China. So here 32, it's a case series where 32% of patients, like 12 out of 38 patients had ocular manifestations, primarily of conjunctivitis. What is there to note is these patients did not have mild disease, but they had moderate to severe critical illness. And one patient had epiphora. So here only 2 out of 11 patients had positive conjunctival swab of PT, RT, PCR for SARS-CoV-2. So there is also they are also saying like in epidemiological studies, we should keep an eye on the through eye transmission also. Keep a mind on it because there are conjunctival symptoms. So in some specific populations like COVID in healthcare workers, so this is a study actually which is done in US. So here just it shows about the transmission, that how we have to be careful. So this is about a patient who was admitted with suspected COVID-19, and patient was diagnosed only after discharge. So patient was admitted for 4 days, hospitalized, and during these 4 days he underwent multiple aerosol generating procedures. Like he was in ICU, so he had nebulization treatment, ET intubation, BiPAP ventilation, bronchoscopy, and around 121 healthcare workers came in contact with this patient during 4 days of admission. And these healthcare workers, around 121 healthcare workers, 43 healthcare workers developed symptoms during the 14 days after exposure, and 3 healthcare workers were eventually positive for COVID-19. So here, most of among the job titles, the maximum risk is for nurses here. So out of 51 nurses, 22 had symptoms, and physician is out of 7 physicians, 3 had symptoms. And next is respiratory therapists, 4 had symptoms out of 9. And eventually 3 healthcare workers were positive for COVID-19. And the procedures which were done, maximum risk was seen with airway suctioning, non-invasive ventilation, and sputum induction procedure and intubation. So here COVID in...
One question. If 43 of them developed symptoms, why only 3 were positive?
So in the study, eventually only 3 tested were, but they didn't say how many times they repeated the swab, or about the sensitivity of the reports. We do not know.
But, broadly, but when all they repeated, that is very important. In throughout days, did they screen those who are not symptomatic?
No, sir. Only symptomatic patients.
All that.
Then next group is in COVID in patients with cancer. So there are 2 studies, both are from Wuhan. So here in the first study, around 1,524 cancer patients were taken. Here 12 patients eventually had developed a COVID. So this was 2 times the community incidence at that point. And non-small cell lung cancer had 35% were non-small cell lung cancer. And in both the studies, what we need to see is that mortality is increased if the patient has underlying malignancy. So in this study, it has increased by 25%. And here in this study, this is a smaller group of 28 cancer patients. Most common were lung cancer in 25% of these patients. And 21% of the patients who had received chemotherapy within 14 days were at higher risk. And mortality has increased. It will increase if the patient has underlying malignancy.
25% mortality. What do you mean by mortality?
Yes, sir.
What does it mean by 25% mortality? Somewhere when you were saying it, you said increase also. Do they mean to say that among the 12 patients who developed COVID, 25% of them died? Or in the overall cohort, there were 25% deaths? And by that, how can they conclude that there is more death because of COVID, as they looked at those who are COVID positive versus COVID negative?
I'm not very sure, but I think it is only in the people who had COVID.
That means out of the 12, 3 died. Then that is. It doesn't sound like that. Is it 25% in that 1,524? 25%?
But looks
we look at it. That's important.
overall or in the diagnosed.
And what is the mortality in COVID first versus COVID negative? What is that?
So next is COVID in pregnancy. So this was taken from the cohort from New York. So around among 215 pregnant ladies presented for delivery in New York, they had tested universally for all the pregnant patients who came at the time of delivery. And most of the patients who came out to be positive at the time of delivery were asymptomatic. And more than 1 of 8 asymptomatic patients who were admitted to the labor and delivery unit were positive for SARS. So here if you see, most of the asymptomatic patients tested COVID positive were 13.5%, and only 1.9% have symptoms. We also have one COVID positive pregnant lady in isolation. So at presentation, she also did not, just one, but she did not have symptoms.
Why was it?
Because her mother-in-law was positive. So she was tested and she came out to be positive. So, but in our
No, we're not. Yeah, there, we're looking at New York.
New York, they have a more communal.